you just need to try harder.
Yeah. Like if you run into a brick wall, just keep doing it.
Just put your shoulder to the wall. Push along. Mended Light. Oh my gosh. So we pulled our Mended Light community saying, what terrible advice have you received from a therapist? And someone said that a therapist told them they just needed to try harder.
It's like telling someone to stop it.
Yeah. How is it like telling someone to stop it? It's just lazy advice?
So that's just not human nature. Like whatever the reason is we're doing what we're doing, there's a reason behind it, whether it's a coping mechanism or we don't know what else to do or we don't know there's another option, but just telling someone to try harder or to stop it is like that doesn't actually help.
Right, because if I'm doing something harmful and someone says just stop it, well, I'm doing it for a reason. And what are we replacing it with to still meet that need? Or same thing with try harder. So I want to share with you all, because you already know this story, my story.
I love story time.
It is story time. So you guys get your little mugs of hot cocoa and your blankies, and I'm going to tell you about Uncle Jono's journey. When I was young, I was fun-loving, and if it wasn't fun, I didn't want to do it. And here's the problem. I was smart enough that I could get by like that. Like with my schoolwork, middle school, high school, I was smart enough to I could have had excellent grades had I applied myself. As it was, I got good grades and I got a really good ACT score, not, hashtag humble brag. And I got to college and college pushed me harder, but I kind of got into that groove and I was able to do a lot of fun things, make movies with my friends, be part of a comedy club, just goof around a lot.
Yeah.
And still do okay in college. And then I hit this wall called graduate school.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't prepared for that type of work ethic, I didn't have the work ethic at 24 that you had at 11. So I hit this wall in graduate school. And graduate school, I survived by working harder than I've ever worked in my life and sacrificing more than I've ever sacrificed. And so I kind of got into this mindset of it just takes hard work, period. And here's something about me. I'm not especially analytical. I struggle with slowing down, pausing, assessing the situation. Evaluating and accurately figuring out like what needs to be done and then hashing out a plan and executing that plan. So for a long time, my solution was just work harder. And that caused a lot of trouble between us. Both in our marriage and also, and especially being in business together. And see, I just had this mental block that was surrounding a good idea. Right. And the good idea is that if you are a good, kind, loving person and you work hard.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
That's all it takes. And I'm like, okay, for half my life, I've been a good, kind, loving person. And for the other half, I added hard work.
Yeah.
And here we go. Maybe that's not the exact math, but that doesn't matter. And so I kept hitting walls because you would rely on me on things and I would drop balls and I wouldn't follow through. And by would and wouldn't, I would add will and still do, but to a lesser extent because I wouldn't do what comes. I don't know if it comes naturally to you or not, but it's something that you do.
Yeah, well, and I would say for me, like we all have our life experiences that shape us, right? And something from my perspective that really shaped me is I have an older brother that you know and love.
Who is a legitimate genius.
Who is a legitimate genius, right? He started taking college math classes when he was 11. And he tested into them because my mother could no longer teach him math, right? So they went to college together. He was 11 and she was an adult. And I am pretty average. I would say I thought I was dumb, but only in comparison to him. Like I was solid average.
You're talking as far as like innate IQ and intelligence?
Right, yeah. Right. Capabilities, like just from natural starting point.
Yeah.
I went to college early also, not nearly as early as him. There came a point where we were in the same math class because my parents required us to get certain types of grades. And even though he was a genius, he didn't put forth the effort that it required to get certain types.
He coasted on genius.
Yeah, he just coasted on genius. And then he didn't, anyways, and I'm more tenacious in that regard than he is. And so,
You're tenacious in every regard.
yeah, tenacity is definitely something I have. And so this is what it looked like when we were in pre-cal trig together in college, right?
Yeah, as children, but continue.
Teenagers. We were teenagers. We would go to class together, and we would go to college together, I would say. And then about a third of the time, he slept in the car. Like he didn't even go to the class. And then the other third of the time, he would go to class, but he'd fall asleep in class. And maybe like a third of the time, he was conscious.
Yeah.
And he did homework about half the time. And I'm over there, and I'm doing everything that's assigned. I'm sitting in the front row. I'm doing all the things. And not only am I doing that, I'm then going back and doing because it was all the odd problems that were assigned.
Yeah.
I'm going back and I'm doing all the even problems the next day to make sure I really understand the concepts.
So was this to keep pace with your brother, or was this for yourself?
No, it was for myself. Like I wanted an A in the class.
Yeah.
Right? And so here's what I did and created for myself to get an A, right? So I'm literally giving myself twice as much work.
Meanwhile,
as
here's
anyone
me
else.
over there, and insert Tommy Boy when he checks his grade, and he's like D+. Oh my gosh, I passed.
And so I would say it was that time period of my life that shaped a lot my work ethic, what I did, how I saw myself. Because not because I wanted to compete with my brother in that sense, because there was a lot of love there.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be just as capable as he was. And in truth, even though I worked that hard, I was still not as capable as him. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to be, right? And then we had a conversation. We were in our late 20s, maybe early 30s. And, we're standing in the living room of my house. And I said, CJ, my whole life, I just wanted to be half as smart as you were. And he said, yeah, my whole life, I just wanted to be half as self-disciplined as you are. And that was a really light bulb moment for me, because even though I talk about comparison and how comparison is the thief of joy and all these things, to some extent, I always had. And I always wanted to be more than what I was, right?
So for you, it wasn't about just the work or the discipline. It was about how you worked.
Yeah, so I am someone who does naturally assess and evaluate, but it was also...
Yeah, because you didn't get that far
yeah.
just by working hard. You got that far by saying, okay, what's the best way to manage this task? What's the best way to use my time at this point?
Right.
Like, how do I approach all this to get it done? I mean, nobody takes the number of credit hours you were taking when I met you without figuring out some sort of system.
I systematize everything.
Mm-hmm.
But like that was, because I definitely consider for all of us our experiences in our childhood and as teenagers, like that's still childhood, right? It's like when you get into your 20s, that's when you're kind of growing out of childhood. It was those experiences for me throughout my entire childhood that created that dynamic within myself.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
and so after I'd spent 20 years doing it, like I was pretty good at it.
Yeah, but in line with our original topic here of you just need to try harder.
Right.
Success doesn't come just from the effort.
Right.
Or actually, I take that back. Like kindness and decency and hard work will get you far in life. They got me far in life, but there's
Right.
a ceiling.
Right.
And you can't blow past that ceiling without assessing, am I doing this the most effective way? What's the highest and best use of my time? Of all the tasks that I have going on right now, what can be delegated? What can be automated? What can be eliminated?
Yeah.
Right? And then, okay, what is necessary and urgent? What's necessary and not urgent?
Yeah.
What's urgent but not necessary, and I don't need to be worrying about it. And what's neither necessary or urgent. This is something I learned from Alicia, like figuring out where everything goes and how to spend your time, and that you want to be spending your time in necessary but not urgent. In other words, that you've managed your tasks well enough that
Right.
you're not putting out fires.
Right. You don't create a dynamic or a system in your life that is constant fires.
Right. And so if you stay on top of necessary but not urgent, then those things don't become urgent.
Right.
Right. And then when you accomplish those things, you can get into, okay, what are the things that are maybe not necessary or urgent, but I enjoy doing them.
Yeah. Well, and it's all about balance, because I said to a friend one time, I said I need to step back and like not take life so seriously and be a bit more go with the flow and make more time for fun. And she said, well, she's like, that's not what I need to do at all, you know? And I was like, well, we have different strengths, you know?
Yeah.
And so
because I never had that need. Like,
right.
I was always not taking life too seriously has never been a problem for me.
Never been your challenge, right? And so it's all, I mean, it's reflection. You could call it evaluation, whatever you want to call it. It's all about looking at your strengths and your weaknesses, your life and how it looks, where you're wanting to go, what your needs are, and saying, okay, where is it that I'm lacking balance? And not balance from any family or societal pressures or something you perceive as good, right? Nothing that you're doing out of obligation, but asking yourself, what kind of life do I want to create? And then the question, is this serving me without internal or external judgment? And then making decisions based on that. Because from my perspective, a person could be entirely out of balance, but if that's the life they want to live, like more power to them, right?
Yeah. Well, and so that leads me to the next question that I wanted to pick your brain about, which is, if I'm somebody who is wearing themselves out with effort, but not getting the results that they want, what advice would you give? Because just try harder obviously isn't the advice.
Right. There's so many directions to go from there, but evaluating where is it you're trying to go and why are you trying to go there?
Yeah.
And what's the purpose, right? And then, okay, what are you doing that's working? What are you doing that's not working? I mean, I think you absolutely do it from a relationship perspective all the time in your office, right?
Yeah.
Like, tell me what you've tried. Tell me why you're doing this.
And I do this with our kids.
Tell me why it matters.
Sometimes our kids will start saying something, one will start saying something rude to another of the children, and I'll say, hang on, what are you trying to accomplish right now?
Yeah.
And they'll either say, I don't know, or I just want to hurt him, you know?
Yeah. You're like, let's just say that out loud.
Let's just say, okay, so you hear yourself say that, like, is that who you want to be, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times there can definitely be an expectations factor, right? So case in point, what I mean by this is we were building our business, and my expectation is to always just do things so quickly and so fast, right?
Fast and well.
Yeah.
And with me, I'm like, I can be fast or it can be good, but like doing it both is.
I joke that if my life had a tagline, it would be "Do it perfectly now." That's not intense. I'm not intense, and that's not so much my tagline anymore because that wasn't serving me. That wasn't working for me. Like, it was too much. There was out of balance there. But when we were, building our business and trying to accomplish certain things, I had an expectation of like 6 to 9 months, right? Which was not realistic. And there were so many sub things in there that weren't realistic. And I had no idea that it wasn't realistic until I was talking to other people who have walked the path that I've walked, and they're like, that's crazy. And I was like, oh, so sometimes even just changing our expectations of what's realistic is powerful.
That's good for us psychologically to manage our expectations, Something I really appreciate about you, even if I haven't always appreciated it in the moment, is you saying, here, you should listen to this audiobook, or here, you should read this book. And early on, I took it as, here's what's wrong with you. This book will fix it. But that's not the place it came from. It came from, I read this, I found it helpful, and I think you will too. You had me read this book one time called Procrastinate on Purpose that talked about staggering your tasks of, okay, this is something I want to do, but this is next month's task, or this is 2 months out, because I can't do it all at once. If I try, I'm going to stumble and fall. And I loved that. And that to me is very helpful instead of just trying harder to do all the things. Like, what's realistic for me to do right now? Number one. Number two, what things can be delegated, what things can be eliminated, and what things can be automated. Because you've told me before, your work ethic is not the problem, right? At least at this point in my journey.
Right.
Earlier on, your work ethic is not the problem, it's how you work. And so, hope that this has been helpful. You've learned a bit from our journey. If you've enjoyed this terrible things that therapists say.
Terrible.
I'm working on my language. We want to invite you to check out this video, which is, you're giving off the wrong signals, they said.
What signals are you giving off?
Well, right now it's a little bit of, how you doing?
No.
No? I'll have to send out different signals. Check out that video right here. Let us know below, when you're trying your hardest and it's not working for you, how have you redirected? What's worked for you, what hasn't? We want to hear from you.
And remember to keep shining. We need your light.
Shiny, shiny. And here's that video.
You know you want to watch it.
And you will, because we said so.